Welcome to Kern County, everyone. Super thrilled this morning when I woke up to think that we had the nation really coming to Kern with, where's Amy Lloyd? She's probably getting mic'd up right now. But the beautiful woman sitting here momentarily is Amy Lloyd from the Department of Education, Senior Advisor to Secretary Cardona. She's here with us. We've got folks from Sacramento here and across California, all here in Kern. I just feel hugely grateful. I feel today is an auspicious day. And when I go back historically and think about the work we have done in Kern, and I look at the history of the work that has happened in California community colleges, we have our leader here, Chancellor Eloy Ortiz Oakley. And Eloy really took California community colleges sort of with a storm, with so many policy changes and resulting in culture and changes among practitioners. But I want to come back to Kern, okay? And when I look at that journey, I see that Kern played a significant role in being a catalyst for each of those moments that change happened. And I want to go back to 2016. And I remember that we had a gathering here in Kern County. It was called Redesigning California's Community Colleges. Do you remember the book? Redesigning America's Community Colleges. And you had Bailey, Jagger, and Jenkins, and I think Jenkins got his first exposure to California at that moment. It was February 18, 2016. And I think Chancellor Oakley at that time was transitioning from being the fabulous president of Long Beach City College that really gave us the language of college promise. And it went from Long Beach City College to across California community colleges, where he created this idea that it is a moral obligation for all of us to come in and create that social compact to make sure it's our collective responsibility to lift each and every one in our community. So back to 2016 and Kern, because today my story is the story about Kern and the story about community colleges. So we started the work of Guided Pathways, and truly, Guided Pathways is just a framework. It is just a language for all of us to norm to do the one thing, and that is to make sure student success happens with equity. So equity was always at the cornerstone, the foundational piece to the Guided Pathways work that resulted in the vision for success. So, you know, the 4 pillars of Guided Pathways: clarify the path. Is it clear for everyone, or is it just clear for those who are privileged, right? How do you enter the path, and then how do we create a village around folks and get them to that completion point? So we saw the paradigm shift from access, let's open our doors wide, to, well, that's not sufficient. We need to go beyond access. We need to go to completion, success with equity. So we were like laser focused on that particular agenda, and I would say we've done a pretty good job with the reform that has happened. So from 2016, I'm going to now take you to 2017. And in 2017, we were back in Kern. We had California converging here, the Central Valley, the other California, right? And again, we had, you know, one of our constants was Eloy recognized that the Central Valley was equity. So every time we were trying to move the agenda on student completion in the Central Valley, he was there, he was present, you know. I want to do another shout out when I think about the constant presence of this work. Sean Whalen, you're watching us, College Futures. When I went back and looked at every event we did, College Futures came in a big way. There are a gold sponsor today, and it's all because of Sean Whalen. So back to 2017, the title of that particular gathering was Leadership Matters. And it wasn't necessarily positional leadership. It was about, you're a faculty. What are the attributes and the characteristics you needed to harness and you needed to really step into to make this change a sustainable change with students at the center? Faculty, classified, administrators all coming together. And in addition to recognizing leadership meant influence and not positional leadership, we recognized that positional leadership mattered. If you were the president of the academic senate, what were you going to do about it to move the equity agenda, the student success agenda? And I'm kind of totally in this space right now with the passing of Madeleine Albright. And one of the things that Madeleine Albright really did is she used her positional power to really do the right thing and make sure others did the right thing. So from that leadership, that cultural change to what it meant to be a faculty leader for student success with equity, what did it mean to be the president of a community college with equity? I mean, it was almost like our job descriptions were being rewritten in this guided pathways reform that was moving across all of California's community colleges. And I think it was 2017, Chancellor Oakley, that AB 705 the governor signed it. And, Kathy keeps referring to it as the civil rights.
One of the most significant pieces of civil rights legislation of the past decade.
You heard Kathy Booth, didn't you? Yeah. Transformational legislation, and I would say one of the significant factors that improved the completion numbers for our associate's degrees, our transfers, our ADTs, and always looking at it from a disaggregated data so that we were not only trying to close achievement gaps, but in some cases we actually closed achievement gaps in many colleges across the community colleges in California. So then fast forward to 2019, we were here at the Marriott. Chancellor Oakley, you were here. And we had the senior advisor to the governor. At that time, it was Londe Ajosi, and today we have with us Ben Cheetah, so thank you for being here. And the problem we tackled in 2019 was the problem of baccalaureate completion. It was trying to solve the challenge that was put forward with a 2030 goal of an additional 1.1 million baccalaureate completers here in California. So you can see that the Guided Pathways framework expanded to the 9th grade in high school all the way to baccalaureate completion, 9th grade to baccalaureate completion, without any gaps. So it was intersegmental discussion. So here we are today, 2022, and we are expanding the Guided Pathways framework now to jobs. So we are defining what does it look like, pathways to jobs. Not just jobs, but good jobs. With equity, the future workforce. So just a quick sidebar. I mean, the whole good jobs discussion is an exploration in itself. The definition, I know that there are major think tanks in DC. I know the Aspen Institute. They're tackling the definition of good jobs. For me, simply put, what everyone is accepting right now, it needs to be, kind of good money coming in, but also it needs to be predictable and it needs to be stable. So that, yesterday our president of our board, and talking about our board, I want to recognize two very special people who are here. And that is our vice president of our board of trustees for the Kern Community College District, Trustee Nan Gomez-Heitzberg. And Trustee Giovanni Jimenez, thank you so much for being here. So our board president, who couldn't be here yesterday, he was giving an example, in Kern of a family of 5. And if you have both parents working in the fields with a total income of $30,000, I mean, is it our shared responsibility to make sure that that family has predictable, stable wages and a good job? The answer is yes. So we can even take one of the parents, right, and get them through the work that we are doing, and on today, this auspicious day, to create the energy to develop those systems for one of them to get a job that is $60,000. It's going to be transformational, not just for that family, but also for California. So, so the good jobs, definition is that predictable and stable wages. There's a lot there, and I'm not going to try to unpack it in my time allotment. And I want to go to high road jobs. Colleagues, Stuart Knox, Undersecretary, Labor Agency, California Department of Labor, thank you for being here. So the high road jobs is the phrase that the labor agency is using here in California, similarly to what the feds are using with good jobs. So high road was sort of developed in 1990 by a sociologist at the University of Wisconsin. So it's pretty dated in some ways. The idea is simple. Prosperity is a shared responsibility. Do we agree with that? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, California, absolutely, we're in. And then there was another added piece to that, and that is a recognition that the environmental impact matters. And we need to pay special attention to what we do because there are consequences. So impact really matters, the environmental impact. So around the early 2000s, maybe around 2002, California started adopting this high road framework from a sociologist to a very practical application. And California started recognizing that we're going to be leaders in the nation and in the world, that we're going to be stewards of a healthy environment. We're going to pay attention to our climate. We're going to pay attention to decarbonization. And California really started a revolution in this clean technology, clean energy sort of a revolution, being a model for the nation. So the idea of the high road framework being applied to it, I mean, equity is right there, looking at our disadvantaged communities and the impact. So moving back to the guided pathways and the impact, I was talking to our Vice Chancellor of Workforce Development for the California Community Colleges, and Sandra Sanchez told me that Eloy Oakley's marching orders is not to really focus anymore on just completion. He has told us at the Chancellor's office we need to go beyond the walls of the college and look at the impact. What is it that we as educators are doing, and how does that impact that individual after college in getting that good job, right? So we're all shifting our focus in the California community colleges to look at pathways to employment, pathways to good job, the impact of what we do as educators. And there is an image which is not up, I guess I'm up on the screen, but there is an image on the website that we're branding this discussion, this energy that we're hoping to release. It's a triangle that has the worker, educator, and employer. So this is how we're going to go. Worker, educator, employer. WEE, W2E is the framework that we're doing, bringing in worker, employer, and educator into the same space. Kathy said it beautifully in all of the events today, we're going to focus on how do we find that hidden worker. When we did guided pathways in the early college movement, we did not just sit back and say, we're here, college, come find us, right? What did we do in the shared responsibility model? We created structured memorandums of understanding with high schools so that every ninth grader in the high school had a college education plan and enrolled in college classes. We did not leave it to chance. It was designed into every high school. So every high school in the Kern Community College District, we have our 3 presidents here from the Kern Community College District, president of Porterville College, Claudia Habib, president of Bakersfield College, Zav Dadaboy, and president of Saracoso Community College, President Sean Hancock. So we have every high school student that comes to us has a plan. When we shift into that same model of making it happen, not just having conversations to have conversations, but when we're making it happen, we have an invisible segment that are adult learners, adult workers who are working in the fields, who are maybe unemployed. The question, the challenge for us today is how do we find them? And one of the answers is what do educators, what do we do in creating partnerships with those organizations that represent workers? So sit back and think about it. When you think about organizations that are close to high school students, you think high schools, right? Talk to the principals, counselors. When you think of workers, what are the organizations that come to your mind? One of the organizations that comes to my mind are the unions. So the Kern Community College District is working with SEIU. Why are we doing that? Because the workers trust SEIU, and we can have access to start the work of getting college designed into every worker and not leave it by chance. There are also many community-based organizations that I hear today, CAPK, United Farm Workers, Cesar Chavez Foundation, so that is where we need to think about very structural relationships where we don't leave it to chance. And definitely with employers in the same space, because they provide that first job and then the good job with that economic mobility. I also want to call out our educational partners. I saw Superintendent Mary Barlow here. Thank you for being here today. And yes, we are applying for the K through 16 grants that are out there. So right now, I want to invite a person I deeply, deeply respect and who's been a true champion of equity and student success, a transformational leader who I'm fortunate to call my friend, Chancellor Eloy Oakley.